Imagine an encyclopedia. It is physically massive, heavy in the hands, bound in elegant, expensive materials, and filled with nearly 400 pages of meticulous hand-drawn illustrations accompanied by dense, flowing text. At first glance, it feels like an artifact recovered from a lost civilization or an alternate dimension. It painstakingly catalogues the flora, fauna, sciences, physics, fashion, and culinary cultures of a vast, incredibly complex world. It is the life's work of a dedicated, obsessive scholar, outlining an entire civilization down to its microscopic biological structures and its grandest, most imposing architectural achievements. There is only one terrifying, deeply unsettling problem. Not a single word of this massive tome can actually be read, and the world it so painstakingly describes does not and has never existed. While the internet and amateur cryptographers obsess endlessly over the Voynich manuscript, a 15th century puzzle that has baffled historians, linguists, and supercomputers for over a century, there is a modern counterpart that is far more bizarre and arguably far more prophetic. Published in 1981 in Italy, it is a massive, incredibly rare book known as the Codex Seraphinianus. It was created by the brilliant, deeply eccentric Italian artist, architect, and industrial designer Luigi Serafini. At a superficial first glance, one might easily dismiss the Codex as merely an elaborate surrealist art project, a hallucinatory fever dream put to paper. It is a 360-page visual encyclopedia of a parallel universe, written entirely in a completely constructed, nonsensical, flowing alphabet. The script mimics the structure of Western writing systems. It has capital letters, punctuation, and paragraphs, but it yields to no known linguistic decipherment. It is a language built for a world of ghosts. But when modern historians, software engineers, and biotechnologists look closely at the impossibly weird, meticulously rendered diagrams drawn by Serafini in the late 1970s, a chilling realization sets in. Serafini didn't just paint a whimsical fantasy world to confuse the art establishment. Hidden within the bizarre biological mechanical hybrids and the surreal, shifting landscapes of the Codex are shocking, highly specific visual predictions of 21st century technology. The Codex Seraphinianus is not just an art book. It is a highly detailed blueprint of our modern anxieties, drawn decades before they ever became our physical reality. The context: decoding the dreams of the machine. To truly understand the prophetic power and the unsettling nature of the Codex, you have to look past the immediate absurdity of the imagery. You must examine the functional, structural design of its illustrations. Luigi Serafini was not just a painter, he was an industrial designer and an architect. His brain naturally processed the world through the rigid lens of mechanics, structural systems, and functional logic. He didn't just draw abstract monsters, he drew biological machines with specific, implied, and terrifying functions. Look closely at the pages dedicated to biology and botany. Decades before the advent of CRISPR, mRNA vaccines, and the public awareness of advanced targeted genetic engineering, the Codex meticulously detailed the terrifying potential of synthetic biology. It shows animals seamlessly, surgically merging with industrial machinery. It depicts strange, chimera-like creatures being grown, nurtured, and harvested in modular industrial vats of glowing liquid. It shows plants being artificially spliced with synthetic materials, creating hybrid flora that functions simultaneously as living organisms and urban infrastructure. There is a famous, deeply disturbing sequence of images in the Codex showing two human lovers engaging in intercourse, and as they do, their bodies slowly melt and fuse together, eventually transforming entirely into a single, cohesive crocodile. It is a visceral, terrifying representation of metamorphosis and the blending of distinct biological codes. It is a visual representation of modern corporate bioengineering drawn in a quiet studio in Rome in 1978. Then, turn the heavy pages to the sections on technology and society. The Codex features elaborate, highly detailed illustrations of humanoid figures physically connected to sprawling, decentralized networks of information through physical cables attached directly to their organic bodies. It is a visceral, analog, and incredibly disturbing prediction of the internet. Neural laces, brain-computer interfaces, and the profound isolation of virtual reality. It shows entire societies engrossed in artificial, projected environments, completely disconnected from the natural world around them. Furthermore, there are flying machines that operate on aerodynamic principles remarkably similar to modern multi-rotor drones and quadcopters, a consumer technology that was decades away from reality when Serafini put ink to paper. There are pages that look like they were pulled directly from modern electron microscope scans, featuring bizarre microscopic diagrams that perfectly mirror the structures of cellular biology, atomic bonds, and modern nanotechnology. The mystery of the Codex isn't about cracking its language. Serafini himself has admitted that the text has no strict linguistic meaning. It was meant to evoke the feeling of pure, unadulterated wonder, confusion, and illiteracy that a young child experiences when looking at an adult encyclopedia before they know how to read. The text is an illusion designed to bypass the logical brain. The real, enduring mystery is the forensic analysis of its imagery. How did a lone artist, working in total isolation in the late 1970s, visually conceptualize the specific technological trajectories, the complex ethical dilemmas, and the biomechanical breakthroughs of the 2020s? Adi break. When you are exploring the bizarre, the surreal, and the technologically prophetic, standard background music will shatter the illusion. You need audio that feels both ancient and aggressively futuristic, the scratch of a quill pen layered over a glitching synthesizer. You need an atmosphere that pulls your viewer straight down the rabbit hole. That's where epidemic sound comes in. Consider it your deciphered codex of production assets, a massive library of high-quality, royalty-free music and sound effects. No copyright strikes to derail your video, just reliable access to thousands of tracks. Need the heavy sound of parchment pages turning? Need a track that sounds like a clockwork machine slowly coming to life? Or an eerie, ambient drone for a deep dive into an unsolved mystery? Epidemic Sound has it. Right now, Epidemic Sound is offering a free trial. Use the link in the description to access the library. Thanks to Epidemic Sound for sponsoring this journey into the unknown. Now back to the pages of the Codex and the terrifying truth of its origins. The decisive stroke, tapping the collective unconscious. The answer to the Codex is uncanny prophecy does not lie in time travel, government leaks, or supernatural clairvoyance. It lies in the profound psychological concept pioneered by Carl Jung, the collective unconscious. The late 1970s, when Serafini spent 2.5 years isolated in his apartment drawing these hundreds of pages, was a massive tectonic hinge point in human history. The digital revolution was in its absolute, churning infancy. Silicon Valley was just beginning to stir. The raw, theoretical concepts of genetic manipulation, personal computing, and global communication networks were floating in the academic and cultural ether. The world was standing entirely unaware on the precipice of a transformation that would fundamentally rewrite the definition of what it meant to be a human being. Serafini, acting as a hypersensitive cultural antenna, absorbed the underlying anxieties, the hidden hopes, and the unspoken trajectories of his time. He didn't literally see the future like a prophet. He took the bleeding-edge theoretical science of his day and followed it logically to its absolute, surreal extreme. He illustrated the trajectory of human progress before the progress had actually occurred. When he drew a creature made of half flesh and half treadmill, or a city that looked like a giant, pulsing microchip, he wasn't predicting a specific animal or a specific real estate development. He was predicting our modern, obsessive drive toward biomechanical integration, transhumanism, and cybernetics. He was illustrating the conceptual, inevitable blending of organic life and industrial digital design, which is exactly what modern biotechnology and tech conglomerates are executing today. He saw the philosophical destination long before the engineers even possessed the tools to build the road. The revelation, the ultimate lasting revelation of the Codex Seraphinianus, is that the future is rarely predicted by data analysts, corporate forecasters, or military intelligence. The future, in its rawest, most conceptual form, is almost always predicted by artists, The Codex forces us to confront the highly uncomfortable fact that the technologies we currently consider to be sudden, modern miracles, the global internet, targeted genetic manipulation, artificial intelligence, autonomous drone warfare, were not accidents. They were not sudden strokes of genius. They were inevitable. The seeds of these world-altering, potentially world-ending inventions were already planted deep within the human psyche, long before they were ever assembled in a clean-room laboratory or coded on a glowing screen. The Codex Seraphinianus is not a forbidden, encrypted history book of a fake, alien world. It is something much more profound. It is a perfectly polished mirror held up to the subconscious mind of the 20th century, showing us exactly the monsters, the miracles, and the machines we were quietly, desperately preparing to unleash upon ourselves.